Hi, I'm Robert, and this is going to be my first video game review, so I don't know if I should say that's the movie. Should I say that's the video game time, that's the movie, video game edition? I don't know. This is something I want to try out. I got this game a while ago, and I just played it several times, and I want to see how this goes. Maybe I'll be doing it, maybe not. So, anyways, today I'll be reviewing The Last of Us. This is a pretty big game. I'm a huge fan of Naughty Dog, probably since Crash. Since Crash Bandicoot, I've been a big fan of those guys. After Crash and I started playing Jak and Daxter, I was like, oh man, this game is so awesome. Because, you know, it kind of reminded me of Ratchet and Clank, but it was very different. It was still very different. They're like two entirely different games. You would think it's a clone of Ratchet and Clank, but it wasn't. Good game. And then they came out with Uncharted. That's around the time when the PlayStation 3 came out. It came out, I think, at probably release. I think it was it launch? I'm not sure. But anyways, Uncharted 1, Uncharted 2, and 3. Oh man, we're so good. That's when I was like, okay, these guys are officially one of my top game companies. Because what they did with Uncharted there, 21st century Indiana Jones. That's what it was for me. And then when I heard about The Last of Us, because I'm a huge fan of the post-apocalyptic genre, and I feel like lots of games just really don't do it justice at all. They either really when they do it, it's just really either kooky and stuff, or it's just not had enough time in production. In development, and it's just not done well. Like for instance, The Walking Dead Survival Instinct, very big disappointment. But then you got The Walking Dead episodes from Telltale. But anyways, reviewing The Last of Us. The Last of Us is about an epidemic that's caused by a mutated fungus called the cordyceps. The cordyceps is a real fungus actually that only infects humans and some arachnids. And what it does is it shoots out spores, and if it's inhaled by the victim, let's say, it kind of controls their brain. So it's kind of like a mind control thing. So in this instance in the game, what it does is when it's inhaled, it takes probably a day or two for the infection to just fully happen. It can either be by getting bit or inhaling the spores. So this happens 20 years after the epidemic striked, and you play as Joel, which is voiced by Troy Baker. Fantastic voice acting, by the way. And he meets up with this girl named Ellie, who's voiced by Ashley Johnson. Another fantastic job. And there's something that is in the game, most people can probably figure it out, but I'm not going to say it, that forces him to take her across country on this long journey to the other side of it starts off in Boston and ends in Salt Lake City, Utah. Takes them across the United States, traveling through this whole post-apocalyptic ridden world, and it's very, very good game. It was just amazing, because it didn't feel like, post-apocalyptic games or zombie games. These weren't zombies, specifically. They just feel like, oh, you're just killing zombies, and that's the whole point of this. You're just fighting this. It doesn't even feel like it's not very good. And this game in particular actually did the genre justice. It made you feel like you were surviving it, because this was an action survival horror game, and the last, I guess, good survival horror game most people would agree with, it was Resident Evil 4, and the route Resident Evil's been taking, it doesn't feel like it's a good survival horror game. So we needed something like The Last of Us. Granted, this is a bit more action oriented, and I guess some people won't like that, but it was still very good. It is a terrifying game. It is scary, but it's also survival at the same time, because this game makes you feel like you really need to do this. Like, you're surviving because you feel for these characters. You don't want anything to happen to them, and sometimes you can't even feel like you think this might happen to you. And it's just a very terrifying but very good game. And it's not terrifying to the point where you're like, I can't do this. It's good. It's just done perfectly. Now let's see. let's talk about the gameplay. Great. The combat, the cover system was amazing. I guess it was also in Tomb Raider, the reboot from this year. But I like this one more. It was very, very, very fluid. I enjoyed it, and so was the stealth here. The stealth this game was difficult. It was a pretty difficult game, especially in your first playthrough. Very difficult. But once your second playthrough goes in, you're good, and it's just, you know what's going to happen, and then you can keep playing it in harder difficulties and stuff. And the gameplay is fine. The shooting is a bit like Uncharted. There's the crafting system, and it was great as well. And when you play on like survival, let's say, it becomes, supplies are very, very scarce. When you start off the game, you get quite a lot of supplies, I guess, but that's mostly because you don't have a lot to craft yet. So you feel like, oh, I'm gonna do fine. But as the game progresses, you're like bleeding supplies. You just want to like pick up a brick. You pick up bricks and just use the brick and not use a gun, because it makes you makes you think how you're going to go into a situation. Are you going to do this stealth-like? And if you do it stealth-like, are you going to do it right? Because if you don't do it right, you're screwed. Everything gets hectic really quickly. This game does this thing where every time you're forced to kill someone, you don't feel very good about what you just did. And Ellie does this sort of thing where, depending, because you fight as well as the infected, you fight humans, and these guys are brutal. They do very bad things, but when you kill them, you still feel a bit of remorse too, because the violence in this game is so real that it sometimes made me flinch and a bit uncomfortable. And Ellie, even, I guess maybe after you kill someone, she goes like, "Shit, Joel, like what was that?" And it kind of brings you back into reality, and you go like, "Yeah, you just took a person's life." It's at first, you probably had to take breaks. This game took me probably like 2 to 4 days, longer than most games, probably because I felt like I needed to take a break more, because this game was a bit too much sometimes, just the violence. And not that it's bad, it's just that it kind of makes you think, You're really just thrown into this situation, and it's just survival. That's all it is. Now let's talk about the bad things in this game. There wasn't actually barely anything this bad except the friendly AI, which was probably the worst one Naughty Dog has done so far. Because with Uncharted, it was very good. They never got in your way. They helped sometimes. In The Last of Us, they helped more, but they were kind of in the way a few times, and the problem was that the enemy AI would ignore the friendly AI if it would spot them. Like, let's say I'm hiding in cover and Ellie hasn't reached me yet, is not with me in cover. She can pass right in front of the enemy AI and they would ignore her entirely. She can like run into them, still ignore her entirely. And they kind of drew you out for the game for a little bit, but it wasn't a big deal. It doesn't happen much in your first playthrough, maybe a few times afterwards. Since I played it so many times now, yeah, you can see it. It bothers you a few times, but I already know what's going to happen, and it doesn't feel the same way as when you play it the first time. So, yeah, that's probably the only problem with this. And the voice acting in here was just incredible. Every single character was amazing. All the actors did a fantastic job. It's not like just throwing voices in there. They all did a fantastic job. And then finding like a few times you can find recorded like voice logs from depending the area you're in, and it was just great. It was just fantastic voice acting from everyone, and especially Troy Baker. God, if you'd seen him in other things, heard him at least, and then you see him and then see the character he played as Joel, it's like you see his face and you're like, no, that's not him. You're messing with me now. He did a fantastic job, and so was Ashley Johnson. All right, fantastic job as Ellie. Ellie was very likable character. She was very cool. Now, yeah, that's it for the single player. All right, now let's talk about the multiplayer. This is actually a very, very fun thing, the multiplayer, for some reason. I enjoyed it a lot. It's 4v4. You either play Survivors, game mode called Survivors. There's pretty much just you have 1 life per round, and there's 7 rounds, I think, depending who wins, each round. And Then there's supply raid where it's 20 lives per team, which is 4v4 still. And this game forces you, the multiplayer forces you to work together. Because if you try going lone wolf on anyone, it's not going to work out. Because usually the other team is together. And if there's more than one, you got to make sure you have the drop on them. Because it will not go good for you. Because it's very, very difficult, and it's very good at the same time. Fun multiplayer, is very addicting actually. I play it a lot. It's very, very fun, and I highly recommend it. If you just got the game, play the story, don't care about playing the multiplayer, play it. I'm telling you, play the multiplayer. It's very fun. You'll enjoy it, and it forces you to communicate with your team. You have to talk with your team. You have to tell them what's going on. You have to really stick together. Fun multiplayer. I don't see anything bad with it actually. Hopefully, maybe they'll release some sort of, I was actually hoping for a sort of co-op type game where you would fight with 4 teammates versus the infected, getting through an area to fight and there's infected there, or you're fighting another opposing team as well as infected at the same time. That'd cause some crazy havoc, but that'd be nice if they do something like that. I would really enjoy that. And they also have this thing in the multiplayer where you have to take care of this virtual clan. When you get kills or something, you can collect supplies, or for doing other things, for getting parts, you get supplies as well. And you have to keep this clan alive. You gotta do sometimes missions to get more parts or to avoid an attack or something. And you have to go through 12 weeks of this. Pretty much 13 weeks. No, 12 weeks. 12 weeks. Yeah, 12 weeks. That's what you have to do, and you have to keep your clan alive the whole time. And your whole clan can die, and you have to start all over again. You can either choose the Fireflies or the Hunters. And it's very good multiplayer. So overall, this game is great. Very good game. Probably, depending, we're still waiting to see Grand Theft Auto 5. This game, BioShock Infinite, I know for sure BioShock Infinite, The Last of Us, probably Grand Theft Auto 5, it's yet to come out, are up there with the Game of the Year contenders. And The Last of Us seems like it might be taking it, but the year's still not over. So there's still lots of games to come, and hopefully I'll be reviewing more of those in the near future. So you can follow me on Twitter at TheRealRobertAH, and on Facebook as well, and you can check out my column at thesashamarinashow.com. And that's the video game. Yeah, I'll go with that. So, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you like this and you want more video game things, reviews, just let us know. Like it, comment, share it, favorite it, do all that stuff. Even subscribe, go ahead. No big deal. I just doing this, man. It's fun stuff.